By Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital, peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host.
Happy Thursday. Thank you for tuning into your station of the nation, Radio Cayman. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Today, we'll be meeting the new director of the Cayman Islands Museum, then later Noel Williams about this year's New Year's Eve Gospel Fest, and then later Baptist Health. As always, we do encourage you to join the conversation. Simply give us a call on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. Back with more talk today following this very brief disclaimer.
To avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
And now, back to Radio Cayman Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Before we get underway with today's show, we do have a announcement we'd like to make on behalf of Cayman Vets. A $5,000 reward is up for offer for the return of a missing dog that goes by the name of Spiky Haggis. Spiky is a white and cream in color, and is a Pomeranian mix. He's a small dog that has a distinctive scar above his left hip. Spiky went missing over a week ago in the area of South Drive and Bimini Drive. Residents are asked to keep their eyes peeled for Spiky, and if anyone has any information on the missing Pomeranian dog, to call Cayman Vets at 525-5838. The number again is 525-5838. All right, and underway with Talk Today. Very pleased to have in studio from the Cayman Islands National Museum, Dr. Poupé, our new Cayman Islands Museum Director, and Brian Watler, in charge of marketing for the museum. Welcome to Talk Today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So, let's get right into it. Dr. Poupé, you're brand new to the museum scene here in Cayman, but you're not new to the museum scene globally. You've had quite a bit of a career in this field. Can you walk us through a bit of your history so the public here gets to know you?
Right. Well, I was born in Belgium, in the city of Bruges, which is a museum in and of itself. So I kind of grew up with museums. I studied art history in Belgium. Moved to Jamaica in 1984, which sort of brought me to the Caribbean and the Caribbean museum sphere, because I started working at the National Gallery of Jamaica that same year. And that has been my main institutional attachment during that period. Worked there, I think, for about 35 years in all, and that culminated with the position of executive director there, which I held for about a little bit more than 8 years. And then I've also worked throughout the Caribbean. I've worked in Haiti, I've worked in Barbados, I've done projects here. I have done various projects that involve the Caribbean community as a whole and so on. So I've sort of roamed across the Caribbean in many ways.
That's awesome.
I know I'm here.
And you've been to Cayman before as well.
Yes, I have. I've done a couple of projects with the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands. Also, more recently, a small project with CNCF. So I'm not really a stranger to the Cayman Islands, but of course I have a lot to learn and a lot to experience living here now.
So coming from, you mentioned in Belgium and Bruges, was
yes.
it? Mm-hmm. Which you called a museum city in itself. Mm-hmm. So it's because from a young age you guys always had this passion for museums, or just because you literally, that's all you've ever known? You've lived in it your whole life?
Right. And I would say in Belgium there is a fairly well-developed museum-going culture. So people go to museums as a matter of course. It's not
Sure.
deemed something that exceptional. Also when people travel, usually museums are part of the menu of things to go to. But in Bruges they had an interesting concept that on Sundays admissions to the city museums was free. So a lot of families, including my own, would go as part of the Sunday afternoon
Sure, yeah.
outing. And then there would be ice cream or pancakes afterwards. So there was the additional incentive, of course. But it really sort of helps to cultivate a habit of going to museums and considering them your own. You know, something that you own that is reflective of your identity. You know,
Absolutely.
which is important, I think.
And then 35 years in the National Gallery scene in Jamaica.
Mhm.
So when you started at the museum, you were just a young adult.
I was very young, very green. You know, I started in the education department, and then a couple of years later, I became assistant curator and worked in various curatorial capacities after that, and then eventually became the executive director. So it was sort of a long career with some interruptions because I also worked with the local foundation, the Multicare Foundation, which is an inner city development foundation for a couple of years. So it was not a continuous stretch, but there was always some involvement. Even when I was not on staff or working on a project with the National Gallery, I sat on some committee or whatever. So I was always there in some way.
You know, 35 years in any one Vigo, you see a lot. You see the developments, right? You see the cycles, the ups and downs. Is there any like standout moments from that 35 years that really stand out for you from your time? And that's a big question because it's a long time, right, to pick out a few moments. But anything that stands out for you? Because Jamaica went through a lot of changes.
Absolutely. Well, Jamaica, the world
did, of course,
went through a
yes.
lot of changes. The expectations about museums have changed. You know, generally, stakeholders have become a lot more demanding. Visitors have become a lot more demanding. Don't expect to go to a museum and to be lectured. I mean, they want to be involved. They want to have a say. You know, so all these things have changed. But I think most memorable for me in Jamaica was really the response to some of the major exhibitions. You know, there were retrospectives like the Edna Monday retrospective in 1990. I mean, that with 800 people in the house. I mean, it's a fairly big building, but that's still a lot of people. The Barrington Watson retrospective in 2012, we had a similar crowd. I mean, the building was really to capacity. But I think the most memorable one to me in terms of how it helped to reposition the National Gallery was Young Talent 5 in 2010, which was sort of an exhibition which I think opened the doors of the National Gallery to a much wider audience. You know, we had 12 young artists, and there was a sort of sea change because one of these artists was Ebony Patterson, and she had work that really related to dancehall culture, to everything that was current in Jamaica at that time. And suddenly our doors opened to people who had never been to the National Gallery before. It was the day of the BlackBerry. People would come and take pictures and send to their friends, and their friends would come later. There was like